Welcome to another edition of Tell Me Your Story, the Health Muse is in. And I have remarkable guests for you today. We talk a lot about health, but we have never gone in depth into the mind, body, spirit connection. And these two women have created a film that is so beautiful that after you hear this interview, we'll give you keys on how to find this film because I want you to watch it because it will change everything about your approach to life, your body, and your spirit, because that is an incredibly important part of the health journey. And health is a journey. We were just talking about that. So we have been involved with Mago and the Tao organization that these two women made the film through. And I've been looking for perfect guests that could show us exactly why this is so important and part of the total health journey that you need to go through. And I couldn't have found better guests than these two women to share it with you. So I'm going to read their bios real quickly. The first one is it Krisanna? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Is a filmmaker who made this amazing film called Love Heals. She's passionately been producing content since she was 16. She believes in the power of storytelling and pours her heart and soul into every story that she has the privilege of sharing with all of you. And as an independent filmmaker, she's been able to craft stories in a way that reflects her heart of love and compassion for the person on the other side of the film. Now, what's interesting about this is the person on the other side of the film is her partner, who was in horrific pain and suffering from probably autoimmune disease, although it has never been classified, at least on film, as that. But she was in big trouble. And Krisanna told Dana that she was going to do whatever it took to help Dana recover. And Love Heals is their journey to find answers. Sorry, you guys all know I get emotional because I believe so passionately in all of this. Dana Crockett is the producer of Love Heals, and she's featured as the main character on the film. The journey is an inspirational one, full of many obstacles, including 2 unsuccessful spine surgeries in 2020, leaving her in continual chronic pain. She was able to harness the power of her mind to accomplish things she thought was impossible. By practicing the ancient mind-body techniques featured in this film, she now greets every day with a smile. She works hard to spread her message of love heals. So I cannot tell you how thrilled I am to have you join me. So thank you very much. And I'm going to let you just take it away and talk about how the film came together and what you accomplished as a result, not only for yourself, but for other people who you took on your journey with you.
What a great question. Do you want to start with how it began?
That's on the director, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's you.
Well, we began our relationship 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember now. Almost 5 years ago. And when we began our relationship, it was like the same month that Dana injured herself. And you see this like played out or explained more in the film. But as she injured herself, the pain just not only continued, but it started to move throughout her body. And so we went to all these doctors and specialists, and I was like, let's find anyone who can give us answers. I was so desperate because I just watched the life drain out of her. And she's so full of life and passion anyway, but this pain was just like just such a constant source of angst for both of us. So nobody had answers. They all had lots of theories, but I think we did that for 2 years trying to get answers.
Yeah,
right?
It was 2 years of going from doctor to doctor. I had so many different modalities tried on me, dry needling and deep tissue work and just chiropractic, physical therapy, some really off the wall therapies that we were told would help. And I just kept getting worse. So, and Krisanna at some point said, gosh, this is really crazy. I feel like I should start documenting this journey. And as a filmmaker, of course, I would expect her to want to capture things, but I was like, I don't know where this is going to lead. And at the time, it just seemed like, sure, you can film some of this, but I don't know why it really matters.
Yeah, I almost thought I would just create a film about the journey for us to just see, because
Right.
I hoped at some point we would have an ending, like a resolution, and then we could
And
say, "Oh
aren't
my
you
God, I can't
glad you
believe."
did? Look at where it led. Oh my God.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, again, this is explained better, I think, in the film. So I don't want to like just go through all the same details, but we went to Sedona Mago as sort of like a last resort because we thought, well, if we had exhausted Western medicine, and so we thought, well, maybe we just need to try Eastern modalities. So we went to Sedona Mago, and Dana's pain actually got worse there. But something happened to our souls. Like we both connected to this deep part of ourselves, and it shifted something inside of us. So we felt like there's something to this energy work. We want to like continue with it and see where it leads. And then through another series of events, we just became connected to, body and brain and Sedona Mago, and just found it like helping us heal so many other areas of our life. For Dana, it was
Right.
like so much childhood trauma and all this stuff. And then for me, similarly, but I had so much emotional pain that I had just stuffed away for years. So all this healing was happening, but at the same time, the pain was staying the same and getting worse.
Yeah, I think part of that was when we went to Sedona Mago, it was like Krisanna would look at me and say, "You are really suffering. We need to do something where we go inside." And we heard meditation was really good. I mean, I had tried meditating before, but we knew that that was a way to find inner peace despite the chaos of what was happening in our lives, which for me was a lot of pain. And Krisanna was in pain too, watching me, emotional pain. So when we decided to go, it was to take that journey inward to find peace inside. And although my body felt worse, it was because we were physical, like we were physically doing things that I was not doing. You see, when you start a chronic pain journey, you're full of fear of movement, fear of
Right.
all of these things, which actually perpetuates the problem.
Mm.
Instead
Well,
of
and you
feeling,
actually
tense
get
up.
tense and stressed, and that is something that promotes inflammation.
That's exactly right. So what I was feeling in my body was all lot of fear and tense and all of the things that I was trying to steer clear from. But what was happening at Mago was we were releasing other things, emotional pains, and I was healing, just not in the way that in my mind felt like I should just be releasing pain. But in reality, that was happening. It was just more of the mental, emotional, and the traumas
And
that
it
I had been.
allowed you to get in touch with that inner quiet voice that's way smarter than I ever realized. Our bodies are very smart, and they like to have a vote. And by doing all the meditation work that you were doing, you finally got quiet enough to listen. And that was a critical part.
It was. And one of the things that we both experienced is prior to that, I was numbing a little bit. Pain pills didn't help me, but I was like drinking wine and stuff on weekends and trying to really numb physically what was happening. And it started to just become habitual, and I didn't feel quite right. And I would have like brain fog. I didn't feel well, but in the moment I thought, this is all I have. Well, when we left Sedona Mago that time, we got in the car to drive home, and we looked at each other and we both told each other, I don't think I want to drink ever again. And that was 3 years ago, and we never have. And it was something
I don't
healed
drink.
within us. Yeah, and we didn't have to like
And I
use that
don't
as a
miss it.
mechanism.
Who would have ever
Us
believed it?
either.
I could care less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because that was such a big part of like how we relaxed and connected with friends. And now I'm like, I know that this film wouldn't exist if I still was drinking, because it just was like suppressing a part of my brain that now is alive. So fast forward, we become connected more to this practice, and we're still like hoping in this energy work and using this energy work, and it's helping all these other areas of our lives. But for me, it's like, yeah, but when is the pain going away? Like, when's it just gonna go away? That was my sole focus, was helping her get out of pain. And so then through a series of events, we just felt like, okay, there's nothing left. We've tried all these things, and even though they're helping us in so many other ways, there must be something else. There must be some structural issue. And then of course, we had a surgeon look at an MRI and say, oh yeah, there's all these structural issues. Oh yeah, we can just go in and do surgery. And at this point, Dana could barely walk. She was struggling to even stay up. She couldn't really sit for very long. She couldn't stand for very long, and she could barely walk. And I thought, I had this vision of me pushing her around in a wheelchair. And I was like, this is not living. We have to do something. So we reluctantly agreed to spine surgery. Dana said no for like 6 months. And we just were at the end of everything, we felt like. And that was at the beginning of COVID. So that's really when I started to film a little bit more, because we were so isolated, and it just felt odd that Dana was in the hospital alone. And then when she came home, like nobody could come even support us emotionally, or, they tried, but we were just so afraid of each other at that point with
Right.
COVID. And so the filming just felt like I needed some outlet. I needed some way to document this.
And I'm so glad that you recognize that, because look at the creativity that came as a result of that. But you needed that for you, and you honored that.
I did. And it wasn't overnight. It was a lot of really, really dark days before I realized I needed some way to find the light again, because I felt hopeless. I just thought, this is the person I love more than anyone else on the planet, and I would do anything to support her. And if this is our life forever, I felt like that was our life forever. Like we were just not really going to live. And my work was just going to have to be to accept that. And I think now I see, when you're in the darkness, it just feels like the darkness is never going to lift, which is very interesting.
Right.
And so somewhere along the way, though, that darkness pushed us into another layer of healing work. So I was like doing some really deep healing within myself. And then Dana was like on a mission. She wasn't just laying on the couch feeling sorry for herself. Sure, there were days like that, but I found her like researching and trying to understand this mind-body connection, and trying to understand why the pain persisted for so long. And that's how she found Dr. Hanscom. And so I don't mean to just speak for you. Do you have anything to share about that?
No, I think you're spot on. I was suffering, and I thought I could lay here and be a victim, or I can try to understand what's happening better so that I can take my journey into my own hands, because obviously going the surgery route didn't help. And after the first surgery,
huge shift change when you begin to own it yourself and stop putting it on anybody else.
It's everything.
It is.
It was. Yeah. So during that transition, it was like, oh my gosh, I started to find things and people who had similar stories to me. And just knowing that we're not alone, we're not the only ones going through this, and there is community out there that exists to help us on this journey, was like everything that I needed in that moment. And although 6 weeks after the first surgery, I got the phone call, I was really struggling and not healing, and I had a spinal fluid leak that would lead me to a second emergency surgery. And then I really felt like, oh my gosh, because I started to see a little bit of hope, and then it was like right back down. And I was struggling to recover from that.
You didn't want to live.
No, I actually lost my will to wake up every day because of the amount of pain that I was in. I never thought I was going to get out of it. And being in the ICU by yourself for a week,
especially
it was
during COVID. Oh my God.
It was terrifying. Yeah, I actually never thought I was leaving. I didn't think they were going to get the leak under control, because the surgery wasn't super successful, and they had to do a lot of other measures to fix what was happening. So I have to say, when you hit rock bottom, at some point, the only way to go is up. You can either stay, or you can find a way to, I don't know, just find little bits of hope that something can shift. But at the end of the day, nobody can do it for you. It has to come from deep within. It has to come from
you. But people don't understand that. We've been so conditioned that our medical doctor is our who said of the greatest magnitude. He has all the answers. We don't have any. We're conditioned to give our power away, and yet the power all lies within.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, I'll never forget when Dr. Hanscom, Dana was connecting with him. And I love that he was able to be part of the film, because I'll never forget when he was sharing with the group that she was part of, that, these spine surgeries so often are not necessary, and so often cause more complications and more pain. and we were living that, but it wasn't like we were the only ones. This was happening all over, that spine surgeries are just being handed out like candy. And he even said, it doesn't mean that Dana didn't need a surgery. It means, and I wish that, so this happened off camera, and I wish this moment would have happened on, but he said it means that her nervous system needed to be calm before any surgery ever took place. She needed to find the stillness within and have her nervous system not be on high alert. And because each surgery it was on high alert, it created more chaos in the nervous system,
Right.
and her body was like more inflamed as a result. And so it's now taken all this time to just even recover just from the surgery, not to mention what she went in for surgery for. So yeah, it was really amazing to like basically have that be our launching point of saying, okay, so there's this idea of energy balance. What if we immerse ourselves? What if we go all in? Because at that point we had ate super, super clean for over a year. We had celery juiced every day. Dana had done massive like probiotic stuff in her body, and she was feeling way better in terms of like mindset,
Gut health.
Well,
gut
and
health.
your gut bacteria are actually what determine your mood. They're making the connection finally that not only are you what you eat, but your gut bacteria are what you eat. So if you're eating crap, which is carbonated, refined, artificial processed crud, then you have angry bacteria, and they send a message directly through the vagus nerve to your moods and your brain and your hormones. So it's all, and I've come to the conclusion that disease is being out of balance. So the return to health is finding all the different ways that you can come back to balance. And without that, you cannot possibly find health. You have to find balance in all aspects of your life.
Very true.
I feel that. I
Yeah.
feel like that's really what we discovered even in the film, which is really amazing. It is about balance and finding it in all these ways and recognizing, so I think we're so focused on the food and nutrition piece and for so long that then when it was like, wait, how many months have we been doing this? Wait, has your pain actually changed at all? No, not really.
Yeah.
So then we thought, what are we missing? Is there some other piece we need to add to the equation? And yeah, so that's really what you see unfolding in the film, and the releasing in all these other ways. And then as we brought other people into that experience and said, well, what if it's not just Dana's journey? What would it look like to show people from all walks of life going through a transformative experience? What could we discover? So that was really,
And I love
incredible.
that you had Bruce Lipton in the film, because he really is the first influencer about you get genetics, but you don't have to turn that switch on. I love the one husband who said, yeah, it's in her genetics. This isn't going to make any difference. Oh no, that's not true. But if you believe that, then it probably is true. So all the pieces fit together.
Yes.
And epigenetics is really, although he's been talking about it for 10 years, it's really just starting to come into its own. And your film is all about that. It's all about the mind, body, spirit connection, which is so critical.
It is. And it's really amazing the way that this all came to fruition, because I found Dr. David Hanscom, which for those of you listening to this that haven't seen the film yet, he did specialty spine surgeries for the better part of 30 years in Seattle. And he himself started to recognize that he was having some mind-body syndrome issues and illnesses from stress and everything else that he was going through. And it wasn't until he made that distinct connection, that mind-body connection, understanding that is one entity and we have to take care of ourselves in a holistic manner, he started doing mindfulness practices and expressive writing to release a lot of his pent-up things that he had gone through throughout his life. And once he made that connection and had that understanding, he quit his practice to help people on their chronic pain and illness journeys, because it was something that he did for himself and recognized the damage being caused to people by these spine surgeries. So as luck would have it, I'm in this group. And one of the things that was very healing for me when we talk about balance and holistic life was finding community. And
do you know, in functional medicine, that's number one for health.
Yes. It is so
I
important.
didn't know that.
It's so important. And
It's
it was
also
the
#1 in the Blue Zone Project. Do you know what the Blue
Ooh,
Zone Project is?
no.
National Geographic, there's a guy named Dan Buettner who went to the 5 areas in the world where people live the longest. And he studied them for National Geographic and then came up with conclusions of what made these societies different from everywhere else. And #1 was community. One is in Sardinia, one is in Okinawa, one is in Loma Linda, California, where they're Seventh-day Adventists. They eat clean, they move, they are always in community supporting each other. Some eat pescatarian, some eat no meat at all. They all eat tons of vegetables. They don't have remotes. They get up and move to change the television. It's like this whole thing. You would be interested to read their conclusions. And they were so solid that they then chose another 12 areas in the world where the entire community agreed to put these things into practice. One is in Manhattan Beach, California, one is in Minnesota somewhere, but they're all over the world. And they're getting the same results where people are having this incredible resurgence of health and balance by following the principles of the Blue Zone.
Wow. We'll have to look into
I want to
that
look that
one.
up.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'd
Yeah,
enjoy what you're doing as well. And he's got a couple books out. He's got a couple films out.
Wow.
Nice. Well,
So I'm
all
sorry I
know is-
interrupted you.
No,
that was
it's
great. I want to find out more about that.
same. I like learning. And one of the, I mean, if I could really say that the one thing that gave me the most hope was finding that community. So we would meet a few times a week. And why that's relevant is Dr. Hanscom is actually friends with Bruce Lipton. And when we told him, like, hey, we started documenting this journey, and then as the universe would have it, Krisanna would be asked by the executive producer of the film and his team to create a documentary because they had seen her film work. She had already done a promotional video for Sedona Mago Center for Wellbeing and Retreat and for the Body and Brain Organization. And they thought, oh my gosh, with somebody with this talent, we want this person to tell the story of all of this stuff, right? And it was like, I mean, what are the probabilities of this happening where she's been documenting my journey and then the executive producer Ilchi Lee says, well, Dana is the protagonist. We're going to follow her journey.
Actually, when we talked about the project at first, it was totally different. It was focusing on the energy balance concept, but like going all over the world and talking to people who had used energy balance to help themselves and to heal themselves. And then, of course, it was like, no, every country's closed down. And so I just, at some point I was in meditation and we had been talking about this for like a month, and I had this strong feeling like, what if we just used Dana's journey and the footage that I have and then just continued it to see where this leads over the next year? Because I had this feeling like this was going to be part of our healing journey. And so then when we met with Ilchi Lee, I was going to share this, and the words came out of his mouth before I said them. He was actually more interested in
There are
Dana's
no
journey.
accidents. This was all part of the journey. You just didn't see this part of it yet.
That's right. And you'd feel the synchronicity because it was like, the film to him became less important than even hearing more about Dana and understanding like how he could help her. And as she shared, he was like, well, what if we follow your journey for this documentary? And I was about to say that. I was literally about to say that. And so then I realized in that moment, like, oh, this is heaven doing its work. And so I just need to be on the journey. And even throughout the whole filming, now I can see the film and see it clearly. But as we were documenting and filming, I couldn't see how any of the pieces fit together. And I actually felt like that was important for me to stay very present, because in all my other projects, I had kind of like, I could visualize it ahead of time. But in this case, I could only see small segments. And I had to just trust that at the end, this is going to create something that speaks to people wherever they're at. And it was really Dana's instincts. She was the one that was like, we need to talk to Bruce Lipton. We need to talk to Fred Luskin. We need to talk to Les Ari. And I was like, why do any of these experts matter? I didn't understand it. So I just would like show up and, do the creative piece. And Dana was really like seeing how the web started to fit.
This is why I was deemed the producer at some point.
Right, but you were also the person on the treasure hunt. And
100%.
you were the one who had the really strong why. And that's a critical part of what you were going through too. You had a why because you loved her. She had a why because she was in pain. And that
Yes.
why was the overriding why. And it's the why that takes us on the journey and the treasure hunt.
It's so true, because even the conversations that she had with the experts, it would have been very, normally I would do the interviewing. That's just what I've done for years. And in this case, Dana did a lot of it. And she was the one, and she would ask for herself, like, tell me about this for me. And it was like they could connect deeper because they were talking to the human on the other end. They weren't talking
Right.
to the producer or someone creating a film. It was really like, I'm curious for my own journey. And then you feel that heart. And the reality is, like, everything I kept coming back to was, if anything we film is not authentic, then I don't want to be a part of it. So it had to be real. It had to be authentic, and it had to be like, and I actually wasn't ever going to be part of the film. That was never my intention. And then toward the end of like filming and editing, I kept having this awareness, like, oh, I actually need to give my perspective, because it's my
Well,
perspective.
and you're part of the
that-
story.
yes.
You're an important
Yeah, I said
part of the
yes to
story.
this. So but I was very
Of course you
resistant
should have
to
been.
that.
Yeah.
That was literally at the 12th hour, though.
Yes.
I mean, Krisanna was pushing back. She's like, I just don't know what the glue is that's holding this whole thing together. Like, it's your narration, it's your storytelling. And she kind of knew it, but was like, no. And it was just remarkable, because as we took the journey and talked to these experts, I was just soaking it up. And Cheryl, the information that we received from them, I mean, obviously you're seeing small snippets in Love
Right.
Heals, but someday we're going to create something with
I'm going
this
to create longer segments for
Yeah.
people so they can really grasp on to what these experts were sharing. Because there's I mean,
You might
of course,
consider
Bruce
doing
Lipton.
something like what I said, where I'm going to do what I'm going to call tiny courses
I love
and
that
put them
idea.
together so that people can go in and at their pace, because I don't have the attention span to watch the hour-long podcast that I'm doing at the moment, at their own attention span rate. They can go glean the information, because anybody who gets into the situation that you got into and that I got into, we're all on treasure hunts. And I am constantly looking for the missing puzzle pieces to my health. So to be able to have a place where I can go and grab those puzzle pieces, I get excited when I find them.
Yes. Yeah, I love that you shared that, because that was also why it felt very important to us to, even the transformation stories you see in the film, we probably captured 5 times as many. We have so many people we talked to, and all of their stories were as powerful. It was just like, what is the most impactful and shows the most diversity. But I think that was part of why I wanted it to be Dana, showing Dana's experience, but especially showing people from any walk of life, because yeah, they all were seeking. And it's so interesting that regardless of the background and regardless of where someone's coming from, when you connect to that truest part of yourself, it's like that holds the key to everything. So even we talk about eating well, but if we don't love ourselves, why would we really care about what we put in our body? So
Well,
there's
but
just
loving yourself, eating well is the first major step of loving yourself.
Yes.
It's very difficult
some
to
people
love
who
yourself
can't
if
even
you're not eating well.
Yes, absolutely. But then even to make that shift of like, oh, I'm going to, so which comes first? I think it's maybe different for everybody.
Right.
But what we saw
Well,
over
and there are
over,
many paths, and it doesn't matter which
Yes.
one you take if you end up in the same place.
Absolutely. And if loving yourselves looks like a little bit of indulging, great. But there's just something really beautiful about this, like, oh, what happens when we connect ourselves? And that's where my curiosity was piqued. What are the manifestations of connecting to yourself and like finding balance, and then seeking balance in other areas of your life? And it's not perfect. And of course, there's ups and downs, and there's times that I'm like, I don't want to go.
And
do
it's
that.
not a straight road. It's this. There are times when I feel fantastic and times when my body's telling me, hey, take a minute and take back and look at where did you go that you're feeling the way that you're feeling at the moment. That's why I let my body vote. I have a conversation every morning in the mirror and say, how you doing today? And if I am not doing well, I'm like a little computer that goes through, what did I do that put me out of balance?
I love
and it's
that
staying
practice.
on that road. Yeah.
Mirror work. I like that.
Mirror work every day because I let
Ooh.
my body vote. I was amazed at how smart my body was. So now I let it vote. It's part of my journey.
I want to try that.
Well, and that's something that I think we've been taught over the last almost year of working with not only these experts, but a lot of the energy balance experts and masters of the practice that we connected with was like, connection with your body is the most important thing. Listening to my body, because these messages that were coming through of pain were trying to get my attention. And it was like the alarm stuck in the on position, like something is wrong. And I just was trying to fix it in all of these other ways that were structural, like, oh, it's just my body, like something's off. When in reality, my entire balance of self, mind, body, and spirit was off. So
Right.
now it's like listening to my body and connecting with my body in ways I never have before. Like, I hear you, I see, I love you. Like, I never shown love to my body in that way before this practice. And now it's like a daily thing. I connect with my body. We do tapping and different exercises where I'm connecting in ways that I never had before. And if you, I won't get off on this tangent, but our bodies are made up of like mostly water. There's so much water in our brains and our bodies. And there's all these studies now that show like our thoughts, our beliefs, our words, internal or external words, have an energetic impact on water, right? It can, if
I
you
actually
freeze
just
it.
saw photographs of different
Yes.
emotions and how they,
Yes.
it started with the guy in Japan who put water in a train station and put
Mhm.
signs on it, and people threw those energies at it, and then he photographed the water. That would be
Yes.
something to look up if you're not familiar with it. The angry water, whereas the love water was very beautiful.
Yes.
But now I'm seeing pictures of thoughts and what they do to water in general,
Yes. So
and
imagine,
also energy and what it does to the
right.
body depending upon the thoughts. Somebody just took a series of pictures of the energy in the body, which we get
Mm,
sometimes with our aura machine. We have
right.
done auras on people who are just completely dark and gray, and we
Mm,
give them the belly button wand for a minute or two, and they brighten up a little bit, enough that they recognize that if they did this on a regular basis, it could make a difference in them and the energy levels that they have. But
mm.
yeah,
Do you have an aura machine?
yes, I'm only married, it'll be 7 years in March. And passing by, I said to John, I'd really love to have the aura machine that they have at Mago, because I've been into reading tarot cards and doing all kinds of more energy reading things, but through other components. And I'll be darned, from our anniversary, he went and bought me the machine. And then Junie, who was our master, taught us how to use it. And then I connected the energy that we get from the aura machine to food, healing, mind, body, stress, sleep, all the other components of the pillars of health. And we use it when we do health show fairs, because it's a great, people are fascinated with it. They want to get their aura reading done, and it gives me the opportunity to capture them and talk to them. So it's really been an amazing tool. But again, we've been in COVID now for so long, and because I'm immune compromised, I have been particularly careful to stay isolated.
Mm.
So I
So
look
you would
forward to being
see,
able
this
to
is
get back
like,
out.
this is my curiosity. So you would test it and you have someone use a healer, and then
And
their
then we
energy
take
would
it again.
change.
And
Oh
we
my
take it
gosh.
again, and we give them a copy of both aura readings with like a quick little 5-minute, this is what you can do to come back more into balance. Or I'm a health coach, you could hire me if you want to do that. But these are the things that you can do for yourself right now that would help you return more to balance than what we're seeing on your auras.
That's incredible.
So it's
Yeah.
fun. And John is as
Yeah.
into all of this as I am. He was a statistician. I was a jeweler. Who knew we'd be doing this together?
Who knew? The universe knew.
I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So, but
Well,
no, it all works together. And energy can be visual, which I don't think I really understood before either.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you're
Yeah.
right. I interrupted you. We are water. And so
Yeah.
our energy does impact the water level in our bodies, and we don't drink enough. Every cell in our body needs water.
Hmm.
It's so true. Yeah. What were you saying about it?
Just the fact that, our beliefs and words and thoughts, how important they are. And through the journey, just becoming an observer of those things about myself was probably one of the main points of being able to start to turn this ship around. Was like, what am I thinking? I was catastrophizing, was a new word I learned through all of this, my situation. And I would wake up and just be in this headspace every day. And everything I was thinking was impacting my cells and my body. And it was like, oh, if I believe that this is my life and this is my future, my body's going to make sure that it
It
proves
is.
me right.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't recognize, and that's when talking about like Bruce Lipton's work, his book, The Biology of Belief. Like, this is no longer just woo woo stuff. These are studies. There's
Right.
like scientific backing that can prove these things. And I became an observer very quickly. So I learned to stop catastrophizing and talking about pain every day. And in fact, it was like, people who would ask me every day, I would start to like want to set boundaries. Like, I'm not talking, even with Krisanna, this is my partner in life. And I would say, please don't ask me about my pain. Like, I will let you know if I need to talk about it. But talking about it just continues to keep my nervous system in a like upset peak state of, oh my gosh, this is my life and I'm in pain all the time. And it was those changes over time that made such a difference in how I would view my life, how I would view the outside world, what my idea of life was going to be in the future, like what was possible. So if I could start to visualize my life in a way where I was active and back on a mountain hiking, and I would literally spend time in visualization and meditation, and I just started to use all of these tools that I believe got me where I'm at today, which is,
Until you believe that you can heal, you don't heal.
that's right.
Mm.
That's right.
I sort of posted something like that in my private group yesterday on Facebook, and somebody came back and said, yeah, you can do all this stuff and it still might not make any difference to your pain. And I said, if you believe that, it
It's right
won't.
here.
I said, but what I want to offer to you is, why don't you try it? Because what if it did work?
You have
What if
nothing to
you
lose
did
by
it
believing.
and it worked for you too? It worked for me, so I believe it. But start from the point of view, you're going to do all these things because they won't hurt you, and they just might do what I tell you that they would do for you. And when you start to believe it is when you start to shift and come back into balance.
It's so true. I just quoted Wayne Dyer, the dear late Wayne Dyer, the other day. He would say, instead of, well, I'll see it when or I'll believe it when I see it, it's actually the flip side. I'll see it once I believe it. You have to believe first. It is the only way. And I found that belief. And now my life is manifesting the way that I always have wanted it to. It's
And I
just in
learned
those
one
dark
other
moments.
skill
It's
that I'm
hard.
just going to throw in. I'm a huge believer in practicing gratitude. But what
Yes.
I have learned to do, other than just practicing gratitude for where I am today and things that happened recently that I'm grateful for, I've started practicing future gratitude. I start to see where I want to go and feeling it in my mind's eye, and then being grateful forward for it, which is helping me manifest where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also become a tool that my word for the year is manifest. So it's one of the tools that I'm using to try to get myself to the next level with my own health and my own life, which is better than my life has ever been. At 73, my life is the best it has ever been. I feel better than I did in my 40s and my 50s.
Wow.
So
That's
um,
incredible.
all of this is part of the same thing.
Mm. I love it.
And one of the things I love about where you two went is you also found your mission.
Mm.
I found my mission by my journey, which is why at 67, I went back to school to be a health coach, because I began running in. My doctor told me I wasn't sick and I needed to seek mental therapy. And I started running into people everywhere at the grocery store, in the dental office, everywhere, where they had been told the same thing. There's nothing wrong with you. Your tests are all normal. Why are you feeling this way? Why are you here again? You were just here. And I decided that I had learned enough that I at least wanted to be able to share from some point of authority that that's not true, that you're the only one who lives inside of you. So don't let any great person tell you that you aren't feeling what you're feeling, because that's bull. And I had done 5 years of research and eliminated dozens and dozens of toxins from my life, which had helped me come back to a place of no pain. But I wanted to get the health coaching school behind me so that people would believe that I knew what I was talking about. So I sold my business and went off to school with all the 20-year-olds. It was great.
Wow.
I love it.
That's
One
incredible.
of them said to me, the best thing about you, Cheryl, is not only do you know this stuff, but you lived it, which none of us can say. Makes a difference.
Yes. Yeah, you have to live it. I love that you brought that up, because I remember in our darkest days, Dana, like, she couldn't go up our stairs, so she was sleeping on this futon in the living room, and it was just so heavy. And I remember telling the universe, at some point I know I'm going to understand why this is happening, but right now I can't see it. And I just hope for the day that this makes sense. And in the last year, I don't remember the moment, but there was some shift that happened in me where I was like, oh my God, now I see. Now I understand actually why everything in my life was leading me here.
Right.
And this is what my soul has, like, I always dreamed about creating a documentary of this scale and a feature length, and just hadn't had the opportunity. And then I could see why. It was like I was in training in that way, technically, but then in my heart, something was shifting, and I needed to feel this level of pain and feel this level of suffering in order to have like some understanding. And so, yeah, it was just very interesting, because then in the last year, I kept meditating. You talked about future gratitude. There was a meditation that I did often that I had this visual of Dana getting to the top of a mountain. And I just like dreamed of that, but almost with pain sometimes, like maybe this will never happen, but I would just be grateful for that moment. And then in the film, early in the filming, we did this hike. I didn't know that she was capable of doing, and it didn't even make it in the film. But at some point I'll edit it together because it's so beautiful. And she did this incredible hike, and she gets to the top, and it was like, it only later did I realize, oh my God, this is what I've been wishing for, and not even knowing if it's possible.
You
And now here we
manifested
are.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just so fascinating that as the film is being released, we're only a month in, right? 6 weeks in, 5 weeks.
Yeah, the first release was January 18th through the 30th.
Oh wow, less.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people from all over the world are emailing Dana and messaging her all the time about how it's helping them, and I'm still like I've not fully grasped it. I've been going through my own process in that way, like,
Right.
is it done? Is it really done? Because I was like obsessed with it for so long. But yeah, it's really amazing to think, oh my gosh, everything was leading up to this, and in such a way
Looking
that
back,
as
it
I
all
healed,
makes sense. Looking forward, it
yes,
never does.
yes. And so we have to believe it. We have to trust. And now I can see, oh, as I heal, as Dana's worked on healing, any version of that word, it wasn't getting out of pain. That was the ultimate healing. The ultimate healing was it within ourselves. Then that's a ripple effect. Other people are sharing in that. And
Right.
that was like something I never predicted, I think.
No, me either. I mean, imagine the amount of pain and suffering that I was going through. I kept telling Krisanna, if what I experience and how I'm handling it can help even one person in the future, I'll feel okay about it. But I didn't feel that in the moment. I thought, who is even going to care? Like, how is it going to help anyone? Lo and behold, we released this film, and I'm getting messages from people in France and in Canada and in the UK and certainly all over the United States. I mean, one woman right after the film came out said, I've been suffering in chronic pain for so many years, and I just watched your film, And for the first time, I've decided today I'm going to move my body and I'm going to show myself love. And it was like, I mean, it was everything to me to know that one person is taking one step to getting a part of their life back that they loved, and they went swimming. But it was something they were not doing for so long. And it was like,
Right.
oh my gosh, Krisanna, this is one small example of, I can't tell you the countless messages that I received. And I told her this was the purpose in my pain. I always wanted purpose. And sometimes maybe we don't find it because our eyes aren't open to like what the possibilities are when we're suffering, when we don't see the light. It's there when we look for it. So now every day I say, regardless of how painful that was, I wouldn't take it back. It was always meant to be this way. We were always meant to go through what we went through to help bring to light this to the world. And here we are. And this is only the beginning. You know, we
It
talk
is.
about
Yeah.
community.
Your journey is not over.
It's just getting started. So we talk about community, and I told Krisanna I would like to create a Love Heals community. So I'm actually launching that, and we're going to do like
once a month.
Yeah, at least once a month. We're doing it on the 24th of February, where anyone that's watched the film, or even those that haven't, if they're on our Facebook group community page, Love Heals, we will be giving people a place to connect so that they know that they're not alone. And the folks that have watched the film are like, oh, this was everything I needed to see. This was the missing link for my healing journey. How do I continue to move forward? Well, we
And
don't want to
people
just have...
love to share and support others.
Yes.
So you're creating a forum where not only do you get to share, but they get to share. And all of the perspectives are different.
Yes, we all learn from each other. We need each other, in fact. We can't go at it alone. The answers are within us, but sometimes we need somebody else or a community that understands to help bring that out of us. So,
and we need to know it's okay to say,
yes.
Hey, I'm not doing well. Or has anybody gone through this and how did you handle it? And to hear other people's perspectives, it's critical.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So congratulations. That's exciting. Now, I don't know that this will have aired by February the 24th. Can they join it later when they hear this?
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our goal is to continue to give people resources and a safe place to land on their journeys, for sure.
So how will people be able to see this film? Tell them how they can do that, because I want to put that under it when I publish this podcast, so that people have a place that they can go and connect with the film and with you. I can send them to the Facebook group. That's easy. But how do they find the film? And I have a feeling it's something they're going to pay for, but that's not a problem. They just need to know how to find it.
Yeah, so I feel like you speak to this really well, so you can add in, but we're doing virtual screenings right now, and they're private virtual screenings. And so this is just the start. As things unfold, we may look at like licensing in the future, but we're consulting with other documentary filmmakers who've been very successful in releasing films. So they say you start with virtual screenings so that you create a sense of urgency. People want to watch the film, and then we can partner with people to release it to their communities. So I don't know when this will air, but our next screening is coming up in a few weeks. But the best way to find out about future screenings is lovehealsfilm.com. lovehealsfilm.com. And whenever we have a screening that's coming up, then we have a button that says, get screening updates.
We'll put that right above this when we publish, so that they'll have that, so that they can go there. Because I want everybody who's watching, I want you to see this film. It's that important.
Well, I'm so curious, Cheryl, because you had so much emotion when you shared in the beginning about the film. And what, can I ask you, like, what it was for you that really touched you?
That you gave a place. I'm trying to create my own community where I can touch lots of people. Has nothing to do with money. Has just to do with trying to get people the help that they don't even know exists, that will lead them on their own treasure hunt to help heal their body. And you did that with a large group all at the same time in this film. And I loved that. And look at the difference you made in all those people's lives. If we come together in the light, there doesn't have to be dark. but we don't come together all together in the light too often. So I love that that's how you approach this, and it's really a marvelous thing.
Wow.
Thank you for that. I just so felt your heart, especially in the beginning as you shared. And I can't tell you, it just means the world to me because there was a point in time I just didn't even know if the film could ever be finished. The timeline was so tight. And yeah, so I think just to hear that it spoke to you in that way is, I'm so, so, so grateful.
And it's speaking to people all over the world because they're reaching out. People need help, and they are not getting it from the traditional paths.
Yeah, it's true. And in fact, they're being sold a lot of meds and a lot of things that cause other complications. So yeah, I feel very passionate about this because when we come home to ourselves, then we can truly know, like, what is the best guide? What is the best source?
Right.
And distinguish the truth. What is the right truth for me in my
right.
own healing?
And it is different for all of us. And people, even I sometimes get trapped in, why am I having this symptom again? Because I thought I was past it. We get stuck in our journey should be over. Our journey is never over. Our journey is constant. And that's why I now look at it like puzzle pieces. I keep looking for puzzle pieces. And I have a tendency now to make a visual when I find a puzzle piece so that I record it in a hard copy that I keep so that I can share it with other people when they need that puzzle piece. So that I have it documented in my own little visual meme. But yeah, no, we're all searching for the right puzzle pieces for ourselves, but in a lot of ways, those puzzle pieces are the same for everyone.
Yeah, that's so interesting too, because that just reminded me, there was a period of time where I was worried with the film, like, am I putting this unnecessary pressure on Dana to, like, miraculously all of a sudden feel 100% so that we have this amazing ending for the film? And I realized, like, I had to block that and say, no, again, this has to be the authentic journey. And then at some point it hit me like a ton of bricks. The whole point of this is to say healing is a process. And by not having this magical ending, even though she's had some days that are like so much better, a lot of times I don't know about them because she just, like, that's part of our relationship now, is that's not what it's based on. But the fact that people can watch it and not feel like, oh, well, good for them, they're completely out of pain, and yet here I am suffering. It's like, no, we're all in process. And even if you're out of pain in one area, a new pain may emerge. So we got to have the tools to navigate this. We have to know how to be constantly working through it, whether it's physical or emotional pain. So yeah,
and
that was like a big aha.
The whole reason I do this part of my podcast, part of it is just me talking what I've learned about health. And then the other are tell me your story, because whatever you're going through, I want you to be able to find to tell me your story that will speak directly to your pain with somebody else who's been through it and come out the other end. And that doesn't mean that they're not still on a journey or that they haven't had relapses or whatever. But I want them to be able to hear what somebody proactively did when they decided to own their own health, whether it's cancer or heart disease or liver disease or bipolar. I just talked to someone who came out the other end of depression. She was depressed. Her best friend was depressed. They didn't tell each other. Her best friend committed suicide. And she was shocked because she hadn't been talking about her darkness either. So I want people to hear this because there's nothing wrong with sharing any of this and to listening to stories that will bring you back to hope, because that's your first step in going on your treasure hunt.
It is. It is more than okay to not be okay. And the more that we can share with one another, the better. And that's truly one of the things I love about our film, is that Krisanna and I captured stories of people who are a few years into their healing journeys, but also those who were starting fresh and going on this retreat with us. And everybody's experience is different. But one thing we've heard over and over again from people that have watched our film is, I could see myself in your film. because we have so many different stories and people in different, parts of their healing journey and suffering with completely different things in their life, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, it doesn't matter. But my biggest awakening in all of this is that my life actually started when this pain journey began, because it brought me back home to myself. I would have
I went
never done
to
this
a
work without
retreat
it.
and somebody asked me what the best thing was that ever happened to me. We were sitting in a big circle and I said, getting autoimmune disease. And everybody gasped.
Hmm.
It was important because for the first time, I had to pay attention to me.
That's right.
I had to. I was so busy taking care of everybody else and taking care of my business and taking care of my employees and taking care of my customers and taking care of my mother. It was the first time I had no choice but to learn to love me.
Mm. Powerful.
So beautiful.
We all have to go through whatever version it is to get our attention, but it
That's
all
right.
begins with self-love.
You got it, Cheryl. You just summed up
Oh,
our film.
yeah. Well, and I mean, you two obviously have an amazing connection and love story of your own. I am fortunate that I have that with my husband, that had I met him earlier in my life, it wouldn't have happened. And if I had to be isolated with anybody, thank God it was him, because he's really an unbelievable partner, but he's there with me every step of the way. You have to love yourself to show other people how to love you before you can find that connection.
So true.
Yeah, we both can agree with you on that one.
Yeah,
We live in a lot of gratitude for the love that we have for each other, but it's only in loving ourselves that we can make what we have like what it is. It wouldn't
right.
exist the way that it does without that. And in fact, we met in like a self-help group, breaking the patterns of codependency and people pleasing and always taking care of everybody outside of us first.
Right.
And it's only in doing that work that we could have the connection that we do.
And I tell
It's
John, I think that's a female problem. And he tells me that's bull, that men go through
mm,
exactly the same thing. But we women tend to, because we were built in the paleo days to be the nurturers,
mhm,
for some reason we take a second seat.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
it's true.
anymore.
No,
No,
no.
can't be.
There's a new wave. I mean, we have gotten some feedback like love heals. That's really, what is that? That's really like, what do they say?
All kinds.
Elementary, or yeah, what does that even mean? That's not real.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
until you understand it, it doesn't mean anything to you.
absolutely.
And
So I just
and there
honor
are,
when someone can't hear it. That's okay.
yes, but that's okay. You're the first step in them
Mhm,
opening up their mind to hear it someday. And that's
Mm,
the important part. They may not hear it now. That's all right. A lot of people don't hear me when I'm talking about health, or they
mhm,
want to attack me, or they want all the statistics and the bull that why do you need to see statistics that you should eat real food? I get people
mm.
who attack me on Facebook
Oh,
all the time.
wow.
Where's the study? There is no study. Use your head. Try it.
It grew from the ground.
Right.
Yeah. The one
So,
thing I like to say about this is I think people's definition of love is what's important. So when I show myself love, it means for me that I'm living authentically, that I'm showing up for myself, that I'm being kind to myself when I make a mistake. Those are things of love, but those things to me in my nervous system are also very healing. So if I have negative self-talk and I'm beating myself up all the time, my nervous system is ramped up, which means I'm not giving my body the environment it needs to heal. Whereas if I'm kind to myself, if I'm patient with myself, if I forgive myself quickly for making mistakes as I can do with other people so easily, I'm giving my body an environment of love, which equates to healing. And that is the best way I can describe it. If people don't understand that love heals, they're kind of missing the point. Love
and
means
it's
so
through
many
that
things.
love that you return to balance,
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes,
and
yes,
balance
That's
is health.
yes.
that's right. So love really does heal.
Right. It does. But
Yeah,
yeah, not everybody's going to get it now. That doesn't
that's
mean that
okay.
not everybody's going to get it eventually.
Right.
They'll hear it.
Yeah.
It'll be
They
one
will.
of the building blocks in their head, that will suddenly flop into place.
That's right.
We're planting seeds, Cheryl. We're
Yep.
just giving little
Yep.
seeds.
That's all I want to do. I want to plant seeds and open up your eyes that there's another way.
Right.
Mm.
And that's
for
what you did with
anybody,
your film.
yes,
Mm.
thank you. For anybody that this does resonate with, we would love for them to join our community, even if it's just online, Facebook, Love Heals Film, on Instagram, and then also the community that we're building. We'll be communicating through that modality, but lovehealsfilm.com will have the path to everything. You can sign up to be on our newsletter. We'll put something out every month. We have special deals for like the retreat that you'll see in the documentary. We would love to stay connected with people that are on this journey with us and create the community that I think we all need. So by all means, you know where to find us, and we'd love to have you.
Okay, well, I'll put all that under this, and thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story with everyone, because it may be the most important story of all. And so thank you.